So good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Just do a quick sound check. So good morning, everyone. It's fantastic to be here in this hotel. Another thing I found out about the hotel today, it was in one of my favorite movies of all time, Goldfinger. This is where Goldfinger actually cheated at cards with James Bond, so I took a kick out of that one. But my role in Microsoft, essentially, is working with our engineering teams and our biggest partners, and also working with Fintechs around innovation. I spend a lot of time talking to my customers about artificial intelligence, blockchain, open banking. And really what I wanted to do today is kind of share what I'm seeing across the industry. And today we're going to go on two journeys. We're actually going to go through space and time into the future. And we're also going to take a quick whistle-stop tour around the world. We're going to look at what's happening in Asia, Europe, and North America, and stopping very quickly in LATAM. The third part of this journey is around artificial intelligence. I'm working with a lot of our customers around their artificial intelligence journey. And I'm going to share some of the learnings that they have in terms of that transformation that Ray mentioned. So I think Ray had a great point there. The customer is the North Star. And I look at my customers through the lens of who's close to me. And this is my youngest daughter, Rebecca. She's 10 years old. And she's an incredible person. She's incredibly digitally astute. She's, like any parent, I'm trying to control her screen time, but somehow she manages to find devices in my house and break through those controls. But she's 10 years old, and I was thinking, what will the world be like when she comes out into the workforce? And what if we were to jump forward 10 years right from this moment? If you don't recognize what this is, it's the time circuit from the DeLorean in Back to the Future. And thinking about what will the world look like in 2028 for her. And when you think about it, the way we're going to consume products is going to be very, very different. The first job that she has is not going to be like the jobs that we've had. When you talk to a lot of analysts, they believe that our net incomes are all going to come down. She's going to be working in the gig economy. So the jobs that we've had, where we had extended tenure, for example, where we had predictable income, that's going to shape the products and the things that she buys. And when you think about the two biggest purchases, my biggest purchase was a car. Again, she won't own a car. She will order a car, a self-driving car that will come to her house, and then drop her to work, and then drop her somewhere else. She won't also probably own a house. She'll be renting. So this means that, again, mortgages, car insurance, all of these products are going to disappear. And again, one of the things I worry about as a kid is she's getting a great education in Seattle, but sometimes I wonder, is she getting training for jobs that aren't going to be there? And sometimes I think about that in the context of banks. You know, if we're building these products, will they actually be here in 10 years' time? So the other thing she's going to look from banks are experiences. Brett actually talks about this in his book, Banking 4.0, but it's going to be like holiday as a service or wedding as a service. The great thing for her in the gig economy is that she will be able to come into these experiences and into these marketplaces with her services. And lastly, the customer experience is going to be very different. We know that mobile devices are going to disappear at some point. So the technology is going to fade into the background. But again, it's going to take a lot of work to get ready for that across the industry. Also interesting to think about here is what the regulatory landscape is going to look like. A lot of people think this is going to be based on what the next crash is going to be like. And depending on the analysts that you talk to, they think it's going to be much bigger than anything that's happened in the past, in 1929 or 2008. These are things that we don't like to think about too much. But this means that the regulations could go in two ways. We could get more regulation, or we could get less regulation. And also think about the industry landscape around banking. We see a lot of adjacent industries looking at this industry. And we see the likes of telcos and retailers trying to come into this industry. We've seen this for a number of years, and they haven't really done it. And the reason is they don't have the compliance engines that you've built up. I also think it's interesting to think about where Amazon is going to be in this landscape. A lot of the customers I talk to are very worried about the threat from Amazon. They've a huge amount of infrastructure in banking when you think about it. They have an amazing customer base, an amazing customer experience. They've also got amazing payments engines. And when you look at what they're doing across the world, we can see that they're investing heavily in payments, in the likes of India, for example. This week, they just passed the $1 trillion market cap. So this is an amazing, the growth of Amazon into other industries is a threat that we need to be aware of. Just for the record, Microsoft, we're not interested in becoming a bank. We just want you to become the best bank that you can be. And lastly, the technology landscape is going to be very different. We know that quantum is going to land in this time frame. And quantum, if it landed tomorrow, would break everything. The good news is we'll have some runway in terms of getting ahead of that. So if we come back to today and 2018, these are some of the challenges that we're all familiar with. Ray mentioned customer experience, new business models and competition coming into our markets, compliance, and also financial crime. But around these, we have a lot of challenges around innovation. You know, one of the challenges that our banks have is creating space for innovation. And the budgets that we have for innovation are shrinking all the time. We know that about 60 or 70% of the IT spend is just spent keeping the lights on. Another chunk goes to compliance, which leaves about 10 to 5% for innovation. The other challenge we have is culture. Ray mentioned it in his opening. Banks are looking to they need to transform at a very rapid pace. And it's not that the people in banks don't want to transform, it's just that they're working in a confined set of rails. And they have a lot of compliance to go through, which makes innovation difficult. And lastly, the skills gap is a huge challenge. There's a war for talent now in AI in our industry. And we need to think about new ways to bridge that gap. So these are some of the things I'm going to talk about in the following slides. As I think about kind of global trends in innovation, when I look in Asia, I'm seeing incredible innovation. What's interesting is the rise of Ant Financial. They're in the top 10 banks now by market cap. And if you're familiar with Alipay, the growth of that platform has been staggering. But we are seeing banks aggressively embracing technologies like AI and blockchain. What's interesting in Asia is we're seeing amazing engagement by the regulators. Regulators are actually leading the innovation conversation. We're working with the regulators in Singapore, for example. And what they are doing is building a trade finance platform on blockchain. And the regulator has laid out the strategy. They're actually bringing the banks into this regulated blockchain environment. So it's amazing to see the regulators actually leading this conversation. In EMEA, we're seeing banks innovating at speed as well. We're seeing banks starting to do open banking. A lot of this has been driven by PSD2. We're also seeing the rise of born-in-the-cloud banks in the UK. So an example of this is a bank called Redwood Bank. They got their banking license in April 2017, and they were up and running in 6 or 7 months in the cloud, which is pretty amazing, a pretty amazing time frame to be a bank in the cloud. And lastly, in the Americas, in North America, we're seeing amazing innovation at the kind of top tier level of banks. We're seeing them aggressively hiring AI talent. So this creates a challenge for everyone in the tiers of institutions below that. And this is actually a great opportunity for Fintechs to close that gap. And again, what I see in LATAM is we're actually seeing the sort of leapfrog effect. So as banks haven't invested in their infrastructure over the years, there's a compelling event now to upgrade. And this means that they're actually going to leapfrog their peers in other regions because they'll be using the latest technology. We also see a massive opportunity with the unbanked. It is a challenging regulatory environment to come into, as Ray said, but I think there's a massive opportunity. We actually have a lot of European fintechs and large banks looking at LATAM as a market to go after, and we are seeing some of these players come into the market now. So one of the other things I'm seeing as well across my customers is this concept of two-speed innovation. And essentially what banks are doing is they're looking to innovate incrementally on their current platforms. But what they're also doing is building a bank on the side. So this is a brand new bank on the side where they can create space to innovate. And essentially what that means is they can do things like build customer experience in from the ground up. They can actually work back from a customer experience to a solution and a product rather than the other way around. And the great thing about this is they can start to build in things like artificial intelligence. They can build APIs into that platform from the ground up. That was one of the things that Jeff Bezos did when he built Amazon, was build APIs into his whole infrastructure. The other thing that you can do here as well is build in the cloud natively. And you can start to use the latest technologies like containers and use more higher value cloud services, if you like. What some banks have done is managed to combine these two motions. One of the banks I worked with in Australia, they built a new product for millennials. And what they did was they built the new product on the right side of this slide, but they managed to wire it back into their core systems. And they did this to create a new brand without necessarily spinning up a new core banking platform on the right side of this diagram. So I think AI is going to be key to this transformation. As Ray said, we've been trying to fix customer experience for years. And the key to great customer experience is telemetry. I think about customer experience like a modern Formula One car. When you think about all the data that pumps back to the team, they customize that car based on that data for each driver and every track that you go to. I also think it's key, if you're looking at open banking and you're looking to bring new services to your customers, you're going to need to do that at the right time, with the right products, on the right channel. That's all going to need to be AI powered. And then compliance is another area that our customers are investing in hugely. A lot of my customers are doing robotics process automation, for example. Barclays and HSBC, what they're doing is taking a lot of their processes and automating them with robots. The great thing is here is that they can build compliance right into those processes from the ground up. And this brings down their compliance overhead. And lastly, cybersecurity and financial crime. I think AI is going to be really transformational here. It's an amazing matchup. With AI, we can look for suspicious patterns in transactions and payments. We can also do some great things in terms of onboarding customers. We work with a company called BioCatch at Microsoft, and again, they've built a solution which essentially tracks your swipes on a mobile application and continually authenticates you. And what this means is, if somebody gets your credentials, they can actually block somebody hacking your account if they're not swiping and touching that device or holding the device in the right way. So what we're seeing in AI is it is a huge journey, and it starts with culture. AI is not going to succeed if it's only in one part of the bank. We need to think about AI as a strategic imperative for the bank at a CX level. And we need to think about the ethics of AI really carefully. One of the things that we're working with our customers in Microsoft is we have a charter in terms of the projects that we will do or we won't do with customers. And a lot of our customers are taking this charter and using it to start thinking about the ethics they need around AI. But think about, as well, being a data-driven culture. If you're a bank that doesn't make decisions on data, AI is not really going to help you. It's just going to give you more data for you not to make a decision. We need to create a skill where the employees are going to reskill continuously. And I think there's amazing people in your organizations who can do AI. They just need the help to get started. So when you think about all of the functions of the bank, what a lot of my customers are thinking about now is this concept of an AI center of excellence, or a place where you bring all your resources together. And the reason you want to do this is that you want to make the most of the skills that you have in your company. So there's no point somebody down in one part of the business having a great AI model and not sharing it. This model could be used by somebody else in another part of the business. The other piece that we see is around making sure that you have the right governance around your models, making sure that they're transparent from a regulatory perspective, and also thinking about the programs around learning and development. How do you reskill people to learn new AI skills? You'll also need to think about the data sources that you acquire for your AI strategy. We're working with some amazing Fintechs who have amazing data sets, and what they can do is overlay these data sets with your data, and you can drive some amazing AI and get some amazing insight into things like underwriting and managing your risk. And one of the things we're doing at Microsoft is we're building programs to help reskill people. We have this thing called the AI School at aischool.microsoft.com. And essentially what we did is we took all of our internal AI training and we actually took it and made it available to anyone to use for free. And this training starts at level 100, very basic, building a bot, for example, right through to building advanced machine learning models. So if you're a fintech here looking at AI, these are some of the use cases that we're seeing across our customers. Huge interest in the space of human advisor augmentation, making your advisors more productive. A lot of our customers are looking to scale their advisors to service more clients. And we're working with some amazing fintechs in that space. It's also a really hot area in Brazil as well. But as you think about financial crime, think about robotics process automation. These are all the really hot areas that we're seeing across the world. So what I'd say is, let's invent the future together. We have an amazing opportunity before us. As a technology company, as partners, as banks, fintechs, think about how you can partner together as well. We have a lot of banks experimenting with blockchain. I've encouraged banks to come together. Why should you be learning by yourself? Because blockchain really works effectively with a network effect. I think the important thing is not to leave anyone behind, be that the people in your organizations, but the people that are unbanked. Let's kind of bring everyone along this journey and not leave everyone behind. It's really important to innovate at pace and scale. And by that I mean, don't try and engineer all this yourself. There's amazing services in our cloud and our competitors' clouds where you can do things like use existing services to build your applications faster. I see a lot of banks trying to engineer from scratch, which isn't, you just don't have the runway to do with the time frame that we need to innovate around. What I would say is it's been amazing to talk to you today. I hope this has been interesting, and I've had an amazing time at the conference. I want to wish you a fantastic America's FinTech conference. Thank you, everyone.